Welcome back to the shop. We survived the storm. The shop actually survived the storm. Can you believe that? I got everything back in here. We just had our power turned on. It was off for 5 days and we lived on a generator. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to my friends and family right here in Florida what you should do to keep your generator alive while you're not using it. How to store it so you don't have carburetor issues when it's time to pull it out. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, well, just use ethanol-free gas, and that's good, but you don't have to. And it does help, but even ethanol-free gas can cause problems when the gas gets really old and really bad. So here's what I do to store my generators. Right here, 2-cycle oil. I know that works. It works great. I stumbled into that working on dirt bikes. Here's how. When people bring me a bike that's been sitting in a shed for years, if it's a 4-stroke, guaranteed every time I'm gonna have to do a ton of carburetor work. If not, completely trash the carburetor and put a new one on it. When it's a 2-stroke, I don't even open up the carburetors on them anymore. I used to open up and look inside, see if it's clean. Every time it's clean. It's just coated with oil or dried, or just like really thick oil from the... What happens is the 2-cycle mix, the fuel and the oil that's mixed together, when the gas dries up, it leaves the oil behind and it keeps everything from getting crusty and sticky and blocking the jets. So it preserves the fuel system is what it does. I've been doing this little trick for years. This generator right here sat for 3 years after I did this 2-cycle fuel treatment with it. And it fired right up, puffed a little smoke on initial start up. You know, I poured some fresh gas in it, choked it, started it, puffed a little puff of smoke, and that was it. And just chooched right along and kept running. And that was after sitting 3 years. So here's how I do this. And it doesn't matter how big or small your generator is, it works the same. You gotta remove your fuel cap, stick a long hose in there. You probably need it up on a bench or something high because you're going to sipe all the fuel out of there. Get all the fuel out of the tank that you can. After you think you have all the fuel out of the tank, go ahead and start it up and let it run on normal. Just keep it on here because a lot of these have a fuel off and then a real off right there. But what you want to do is you want to just have it on. After you sipe the tank, run it because there's still going to be some fuel in the fuel line and in the carburetor. You need to burn up all that. So start it up, let it run until it just completely runs out of gas. Once it's out of gas, you want to mix up a little bit of premix. I use this WD-40 can right here because I know this is exactly a gallon, but you can do it however you want. Use a gas tank, whatever, it doesn't matter. I poured a gallon of fuel in here, or I filled it up because this is a gallon, and I mixed it to 32-to-1. I would suggest using a synthetic 2-cycle oil and not a castor base, only because I have more experience with this and storing generators, and it's never given me issues. So I'm going to suggest, just to guarantee this works for you, a synthetic 2-cycle oil. Most of your 2-cycle oils these days are synthetic, but just look for that. I mix it at 32-to-1 for this, which is 4 ounces of oil per gallon of gas. So I'll throw 4 ounces of 2-cycle oil in here, shake it up real good, and then I pour just enough in the tank so that there's just a thin layer of fuel at the bottom of the tank. Doesn't take much. You don't have to put much into it. You just want enough fuel at the bottom of the tank that you can see when you look in here that the whole bottom of the tank's covered. Turn it back on again, start it up, and let it run. Let it run for about 5 minutes or so. And what you're doing is you're making sure that all that pre-mixed fuel makes it through the fuel line and into the carburetor really good. At that point, you want to shut your fuel off and let it continue to run. It will run until the fuel runs out of the carburetor. Then you can just go ahead and finish. Once it shuts off, you can finish shutting it off right here. And most generators have a cap for a vent off or on. You can turn on off. You can leave the remaining fuel in there if you want, or you can pull it out if you like. It really doesn't matter. Even if the fuel in the tank dries up, it's just going to leave the 2-cycle oil behind. And the remaining fuel in the carburetor, because even though you ran it until the carburetor is dry, trust me, there's still a little bit at the bottom of that carburetor. That's going to dry up too. It's just going to leave the 2-cycle oil behind, and it's going to be okay. A year down the road, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, all you're going to have to do is pull this off, open your vent back up, fill it up with fresh gasoline, put it on, turn your fuel on, choke it, start it, and it's going to fire right up. Now, on initial fire up, it's going to puff just a little bit of puff of smoke out for just a second, and that'll be it. But it will fire right up. And that's how I store my generators. I never have to dig into the carburetor to work on them. I never have to fool with them. I don't know how many people bring me generators that have been sitting around where I have to rebuild the carburetor and get them going for people, because they just do it in the garage after the storm, after the hurricane, and forgot about it for a year. It happens. And another tip, I don't care if your generator is big or small, change the oil every 3 days of running. That's 72 hours. Now the manual for this one says to change it every 100 hours, but 3 days, 72 hours. You know, they're looking at EPA type stuff, you know, being environmentally friendly, so they're going to push it as long as they can. They don't hold much oil. This one right here only holds at half a quart of oil. And this is just 1 day of running right here. I'll just show you. You can, if you look in there, you can see that oil's already looking a little bit brown in there, and that's just 1 day of running. So you can imagine by the third day your oil's going to come out not quite black, but definitely pretty dark. And you're living on this generator, right? You don't need it going out on you. Now I do rebuild generators, and I have rebuilt a lot of generators for people, mainly the Hondas, that the parts are readily available. And pretty much every time I have to open the motor and replace a piston, a crank, valves, or whatever, it's always because of lack of oil changes. Every time. These don't even have oil pumps, right? They sling the oil up to the top end to the valves. And when the oil gets old and it starts running a little bit low on oil, they don't sling as much oil up to the valves. And that exhaust valve can literally get stuck right in the head and just not move and just take the motor out. It bends push rods, you name it. It gets nasty quick. Every 3 days, 72 hours, change your motor oil. They don't take much. This one only takes a half a quart. Your bigger ones take a quart, maybe a hair bit more. Just pick up some Shell Rotella before the storm. 1 gallon, that'll get you through. Don't worry, they don't take much oil, right? And I love Shell Rotella. It's probably about the best oil you can buy for the money. Fuel, you're going to need a lot of fuel. You're going to need a lot of fuel. I've seen people only pick up 10 gallons thinking, well, this is going to be enough. Just 2 5-gallon jugs. Yeah. Especially the guys with the big generators that run their whole house. Seriously, they're fooling themselves. I've seen them out here siping fuel out of their vehicles. I didn't have to sipe any fuel out of my vehicles because I bought a lot of fuel. I had 25 gallons on hand in cans, plus I also had my vehicles full, so if I had to pull from there, plus as you know, I'm probably sitting on about 15 gallons of race fuel. If I had to use that, I would have, you know, whatever. But yeah, change your oil every 3 days. Make sure you have a lot of fuel. Use some pre-mix to store it. Your generator will thank you. Look up there closely. You can see. Oh, shoot, the sun is right in my eyes. 3 power lines are right there as we go here. Uh-oh, them 2 are touching. And it caused a little fire in the bush last night. I got to call the electric company to have them come straighten that out. And of course, Beavis made it. Look at all that brush in his front yard waiting for the county to come get it. And here's the brush in my front yard. I don't have as much. But the storm did take my whole chimney cover right here. Ripped it off and sent it out. I went and found it. I just kind of patched it up for the time being just so we don't get water in the house and stuff. But we're going to need a new one of them. Then if you come over here, this tree right here, my power line that goes to the house was wrapped all. This whole, look up here, you can see all the branches and stuff. I already cut all this and cleared it out. All this was laid on my roof right here, all around the power line. I took care of that while the power was still off. I figured that's when it would be safest. You couldn't even see the power line. Everything, it was just all covered up. That's what all that stuff is right out there right now. And I took the time and put the chainsaw and cut all that up and threw it off the roof. That's pretty much the extent of the damage here. Hey, come on, go somewhere. I'm trying to film. And this flag right here, this is the 3rd hurricane this flag has survived through. Just hanging right here. Ain't that awesome? Well, that's pretty much a wrap. I'm going to start my day off by finishing up this job right here, this gas 450 motor. And I already have my premix mixed in here, a little bit at the bottom, so I need to pull it outside and run it out of fuel and put that away for storage. This weekend, I think I'm going to be riding the YZ125, especially since I haven't ridden in, what, going on 3 weeks now. The 125 would probably be a little easier for my 48-year-old ass to warm back up to this sport. And I think we're going to be going to 74 on Saturday. Girls ride free day there. So as long as the weather holds, and it looks like it will, I'll be out there. Hope all you guys have a great weekend of riding wherever you're at. I hope the guys in Florida here, you weathered the storm well, very minimum damage. Hope all is well. And yeah, take care of them generators. Catch you guys in the next video.